Hello and welcome to the Grand Line Review, your source for everything One Piece. My name is Liam and I am right-handed but also left-footed, so I've got a weird sort of like diagonal dominance thing going on. And today we are here to discuss a one-time crucial group of individuals who have shaped most of One Piece as we know it, who these days get none of the respect they deserve. That's right, it is indeed the 7 Warlords, and nobody cares about them. Not Luffy because he beat half of them, not the world government because they dumped the Warlords like an abusive ex, and certainly not the fanbase because we now have these shiny emperors to fixate on. But not today. In fact, get out of the way, Kaido! Because it's Warlord time. So we are going to be ranking all 7 Warlords, of which there are actually 11 7 Warlords, which is even more confusing because 7 rhymes with 11. So we are going to be drawing their names out of this delightful One Piece themed hat, and from there we will proceed to rank them according to their, how shall we say, warlordiness. And it's all going to begin with a quick round of Warlord or Warlawyer, a very simple minigame, the rules of which are as follows. Here we have 3 of our 11 7 Warlords, but did you know that one of them is actually a qualified attorney? Well, you do now, and it's going to be your job to guess which one it is. Should you guess incorrectly, then you will be legally obliged to subscribe to the Grand Line Review, thus resulting in consistent injections of One Piece culture administered directly into your YouTube feed. Meanwhile, if you are correct, then you will be forced to go to law school, where you will undergo a 3-year degree studying Trafalgar Law. So which one of our Warlords is a Warlawyer? Make your choice now and we shall reveal the answer in 3, 2, 1, and bam! It was Dracule Mihawk Esquire. He got so bored of looking for swordsmen to fight that he just became a lawyer in his spare time. Good on him. So if you guessed incorrectly, then you know the thing to do, and please do say hi in the comments below if you are a new member of the Grand Fleet. Welcome. Alright, let us now plunge my arm into the pit of Warlords and we will discover Sir Crocodile. So I should probably explain how we're going to be ranking these dude bras, and because this is specifically a Warlord tier list, we're going to be looking at how successful and effective these characters were in that position. And Crocodile, for example, is a bit of a weird one to start with, honestly, because I'm sure that he was a rather fearsome war guy, but he was also attempting to throw a world government nation into civil war and resurrect an ancient weapon in order to take over the world. So on the one hand, he is publicly doing his job, however, he is also undermining the very concept of the world government. In addition to this, Crocodile does have retrospective issues as well, being that he's actually kind of weak compared to his Warlord contemporaries. It's problematic that he lost to a lone rubber boy with no fancy gear or haki-based enhancements, but it is even more problematic that Crocodile's low gear counter is literally any liquid. Water, sweat, blood, jizz, whatever it is, it makes Crocodile next to useless. The man can't even drink a refreshing Coca-Cola without fearing for his life. Which is why we're going to open this discussion with an immediate D tier. Thinking about him as a warlord, not only was he weak, but he was also being a very naughty sand boy. So that's a combination for one pretty terrible warlord sitting right there. And for warlord number 2, we have Boa Hancock. So immediately I think that Hancock is going to be ranking higher than Crocodile for show, because yes, she is a very disobedient warlord, ignoring all kinds of order things from the world government, but at least she wasn't planning global domination. All Hancock really wanted to do was live peacefully on her island full of women, all of whom seem to have this obsession with the motif of incredibly phallic snakes, just saying. But that makes Hancock a seemingly perfect candidate for the warlord position, the sort of don't F with us and we won't F with you arrangement. There are a couple of problems though, one being that whilst Hancock is quite, I suppose, relatively powerful, she is still definitely lacking in comparison to many of the other war bros. Then there's also the issue of her being infatuated with the one man whose very fate seems to be to implement the destruction of the world government, hence leading to a teeny tiny mass gigantic breakout of prisoners from Impel Down. So look, as a warlord, I think that Hancock is actually a solid C tier, not overly helpful to the world government and sometimes incredibly anti-helpful, but definitely not on Crocodile level. Oh, this was already open. Trafalgar Law. All right, look, here's the thing. I don't know what, if anything, Trafalgar Law actually did as a warlord. I know how he got the position by offering the hearts of 100 pirates to world government senpai, but then, as far as we know, he just went to Ponk Hazard to hang out with a clown in the snow, so probably the most negligent of every warlord thus far when it comes to his actual duties in the position. And the thing about Law is that while he is quite strong and does have one of the most ridiculous devil fruits in all of One Piece, he also didn't quite have the notoriety that many of the other warlords had or even have present tense. Like say you want to talk about Boa Hancock, and some people do that. She is a valid topic. But Boa Hancock is a name that is feared worldwide as the Pirate Empress. She has a name, and that name commands quite a bit of power all on its lonesome. Whereas Law was just an up-and-coming scrub pirate. And I really don't know if making him a warlord really would have achieved what the world government desired, even if Law did act obediently. So look, my hands are pretty tied here. I have no choice but to plonk Law right in the D tier. Plus, as a warlord, he was so ineffective that many fans actually forget that he ever had the position to begin with. So you, sir, are a failure. Dracule Mihawk. From Warlord to Warlord now, this man is one of our prime candidates on this list. Having the world's greatest swordsman be a part of your organization is honestly what I believe maintained the seriousness around the Warlord title for, well, the entirety of its lifespan that we know of. Mihawk is a man said to be an old rival to a current Emperor of the Sea. That's legitimately terrifying, and even if he is a bit of a wild card, just having his name on the books makes the world government look even more powerful via association. I mean, just look at Mihawk. He is such a proficient swordsman that even his facial hair is sharp enough to cut you. And as a result, we are going to award our first and possibly only S-tier warlord ranking. There is definitely nobody so far who has served this position better than Mihawk. Also, fun fact, he's a hobby farmer. When not engaged in swordplay or legal advice, he is very active in the realm of agriculture and even employs baboons to till the land for him, so he's quite the entrepreneur. Oh no. Oh, it's Simon. Alright, so when I said there were 11-7 warlords, it's more like 11 and a half. Because with these lists, I've taken to including non-canon characters as well, and here we have Simon from a Game Boy Advance game, the name of which it's way too long to say. He was a warlord candidate. And not in the same way that Ace was a candidate. You know, he got offered the position and said, lol, no. Whereas Simon accepted this offer and was allegedly put on the waiting list for the 7 warlords. Which is why I threw his name into the hat, but that's also why we're throwing him right back out into somewhere else, because he's going to need his own very mediocre tier that we are going to call the Simon tier. This tier is reserved only for the greatest of disappointments to the warlord system, which is a level that not even Crocodile could have attained. Stop from the hat. It is Marshall D. Teach, and actually, wow, could we have a rival to Simon? Now, I've had some pretty bad things to say about, well, most warlords to this point. However, it is very difficult to highlight someone who served this position worse than Blackbeard. His entire warlord career can pretty much be summed up in 3 dot points. He got the job, he ate some dinner, then he effed everything up. This is one of the biggest missteps that the world government has ever made, because they gave Blackbeard the means to propel himself into becoming an Emperor of the Sea. And I'll also make the law argument with him as well. Having Blackbeard as a warlord did nothing for the institution, because by and large, nobody knew the name of Blackbeard prior to his actions in the Paramount War. So he wasn't really someone to be feared in a warlord position, and if anything, bring in some nobody into the fold may even make the world government look weaker. Because, you know, why couldn't they bring a real pirate into this big, bad group of pirate guys? Oh, and also, I ran a poll on the channel, and the large majority of you agree that Teach doesn't even shower. So not only was he the most useless and counterproductive of warlords, but he probably also stank the most. And all of those things mean that I have no choice but to dump Blackbeard unceremoniously into the Simon tier. Next up is Jinbe. To put it into simplistic terms, Jinbe is a very good boy, but perhaps a bit too good. Because whilst he may be a nigh on perfect diplomat and generally quite obedient, he does still have this pesky sense of honor that prevents him from doing simple things like, say, betraying his close allies such as Whitebeard. Were it not for the concept of honor, Jinbe would probably be an easy S-tier warlord. Because let's think about it, he also stands far and above many of the others, even serving as an active counter to about half of them. I mean, Jinbe is the natural counter to Crocodile due to water control, Jinbe wipes his butt with Gecko Moria due to salt manipulation, and worst of all, he even hard counters Boa Hancock, because Jinbe actually has the respect and admiration of Luffy. If anything, Jinbe is significantly closer to marrying Luffy than Hancock is. But look, in terms of a warlord, he's a B. Cooperative and notorious, but a little too cooperative with the even more notorious enemies of the world government. Buggy the Clown, or as I've written it, Bug. See, I tried to do a Y, but it just looks like a third G. And Buggy, look, well, he's pretty alright. Because sure, he does lack the requisite strength of a warlord, but I would say that makes him quite cooperative as a result, because he doesn't really want to start something with the world government, because he knows he cannot back it up. Plus, his power doesn't really matter at all, because he has a name that is thrown into the same league as those such as Roger and Shankusu. From a public perspective, Buggy is probably one of the people who looks closest to becoming another pirate king, and we should never underestimate that. However, the fact that Buggy is mostly a facade, like a cardboard cutout that can be blown over in the wind, well, that whole thing means that I can't quite equate him to Mihawk, so we're going to have to settle for A tier. Edward Weevil. Alright, probably the most unpopular of warlords within the fan base, but as a warlord, he's not actually too bad. He has power that, like he, can only be described as stupidly big, and unlike I think almost everyone else, Weevil actually spent his time hunting down pirates, which is, that's his job. That's the job of a warlord. He is the one who is actually doing it. He's an incredibly good employee when you think about it, and even alleging that he is the son of Whitebeard is plenty to give him the notoriety that candidates like Law and Blackbeard were sorely lacking during their runs in the role. Although my personal favorite fan theory is that Weevil is the son of a beard, but not Whitebeard. Instead, it was Blackbeard. And Miss Buckin is just far too ashamed to admit that she spent a night of passion getting furiously zehahad. But really, if the world government hadn't dissolved the warlord system, Weevil would still be a model staff member. So surprisingly enough, he is one of the closest things we have to a perfect warlord, and is such heading straight to S tier. Bartholomew Kuma. So Kuma actually ranks pretty highly on the warlord scale of thick, only to really be outdone by the posterior of Gecko Moria. But in fact, if you were to put Kuma's torso on the lower half of Moria, then the ultimate thick boy would be born. And I would say that Kuma is also by far the most agreeable of the warlords, and that may propel him into an immediate S tier, if not for the fact that he was acting as an integral feature of this little thing we like to call the Revolutionary Army. During his life, he clearly had some very sneaky motives that presented a much greater threat to the world government than most, if not all others, and weighing that up against his exemplary service, lands our man Borg in the middling B tier. Gecko Moria. We'll keep this one pretty quick. Moria is one of the few warlords who is actively defined as too weak to hold the position. And when I say one of the few, I mean literally the only one. In addition to that, Moria also wasn't wildly keen on assisting the world government in any of the duties they needed him to fulfill, so what good is he? He is both weak and uncooperative, and as such, a clear Simon tier warlord. Which I believe, leaves us with the man himself, Don Quixote Doflamingo. Doflamingo has a very unique relationship with the world government because he did blackmail them into this position, and that arrangement might serve as a nice symbiotic relationship in some cases, but probably not when it involves the warlord in question commandeering an entire country, as well as serving as a nexus of black market trading, specifically aimed at equipping an Emperor of the Sea with all of the resources needed to declare war on, checks notes, the entire world. It's tricky though, because apart from that little small detail, Doflamingo was one of the better warlords, both commanding fear and willingly showing up for all sorts of world government related business and administration. Although at the same time, just look at how he sits in his chair here. That is a ballsy man, and I really hope he doesn't sit like that on the toilet as well. But we're going to have to apply some Kuma logic with this. Doflamingo's strength and obedience weighed up together against his world government destroying dealings makes him a pretty mid warlord, so we are going to slap him with a mighty B. And there we go, all 12 11-7 warlords of the sea ranked in order of their sheer warlordiness. But now that you've watched this video, go ahead and watch another like this one here, which is also about One Piece, which is the thing that you like. There is always more to learn, explore, and experience about this wonderful series, so I look forward to seeing you there.